There's something unsettling about getting a great deal on a house. It's the kind of luck that doesn't feel real, like winning a raffle you don't remember entering, or finding a designer bag at a thrift store for $5, tag still on. A little too perfect. That's how I felt when I bought my house. I'd been house hunting for months, exhausted by bidding wars and skyrocketing prices. Then I found this one, a beautiful 2-story home in a quiet neighborhood. Big windows, wraparound porch, backyard with a towering oak tree. And the price? Unbelievably low. The seller was an older man, quiet but polite. Said he was relocating, needed to sell quickly. I didn't question it. I should have. The first letter arrived 3 weeks after I moved in. I found it in my mailbox, no return address. The handwriting was neat, pleasant. At first, I thought it was a mistake, meant for the old owner, until I opened it. I like the blue dress you wore yesterday. It suits you. Signed, Rose. My stomach dropped. I had worn a blue dress the day before. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe a neighbor had seen me outside. Maybe someone was just being weird. I crumpled it up and threw it away. The second letter came a week later. You always check your phone right before bed. Bad habit. Signed, Rose. I stopped breathing. I hadn't been outside, hadn't stood near a window. I'd been in my bedroom, curled under my blankets, staring at my screen in the dark. By the time the third letter arrived, I wasn't sleeping. I triple-checked the doors, the windows, started closing the blinds, making sure every curtain was drawn tight. It didn't matter. The letter still came. You really should stop pacing when you're on the phone. You'll wear out the carpet. Signed, Rose. I felt sick. I hadn't even spoken out loud. It had been a FaceTime call, private, in my own home. I didn't finish reading. I grabbed my keys and drove straight to the police station. The officer at the front desk took the letters, flipping through them with mild disinterest. Asked if I had any exes who might be holding a grudge, if I'd noticed anyone watching me, if I'd seen strangers lingering nearby. I said no to all of it. They told me to install security cameras, file a report, call if anything escalated. That was it. I felt ridiculous, paranoid, like I was making a big deal out of nothing. But it wasn't nothing, and I was about to find out just how bad it really was. That night, I didn't sleep. I left every light on, sat in the living room with a kitchen knife clutched in my lap. The house felt different, like it wasn't just mine, like I was a guest in someone else's space. By morning, I had made up my mind. I called a professional, one of those security experts who sweep houses for hidden cameras, stalker bugs, any kind of surveillance. He showed up that afternoon, and in less than an hour, he found it. A tiny camera tucked behind an air vent in my bedroom, another hidden inside a smoke detector, and another, and another. In total, he found 16 cameras throughout the house. Every room, every angle, watching me, recording me, listening. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I asked him who would do this. Why? He gave me a long, careful look. Then he said something I'll never forget. "Ma'am, you need to call the listing agent." I dialed immediately. The woman on the other end, Emily, the realtor who had handled the sale, sounded confused at first. Then she checked her records, and then she went completely silent. And after a long pause, she whispered, "That house was never listed for sale." I couldn't understand. I told her I'd spoken to the owner, that we'd signed papers, that I had a deed in my name, but she kept shaking her head, like I could see her through the phone, saying, No, that's not right. That house was never on the market." I felt like I was going to throw up. I asked her for the previous owner's name, and when she told me, my hands started shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. Matthew Belrose. It was the name that had been on every single letter. Belrose. Rose. The same man who had handed me the keys. I don't know how he did it, how he faked the documents, how he managed to sell me a house that was never for sale. But I do know why, because he never really left. because he never intended to. He just wanted someone to move in, so he could watch. The first box felt like a little gift to myself. I'd been on a self-care kick, trying to romanticize my life or whatever people called it these days. Thought a monthly surprise might be a nice touch, something curated, a small joy I could look forward to. The company was called Luna Crate. Their ads were all over my social media, promising hand-picked delights for the modern soul. Books, candles, tea, skincare, stuff like that. It seemed harmless, fun. And for the first few months, it was. The first box had a lavender-scented candle, a novel I'd never heard of, and a tin of loose-leaf tea. The second, a silk sleep mask, an herbal face mist, and a collection of poetry. By the third, I had started looking forward to them. It was like getting a little care package from someone who knew me well. But then, the fourth box arrived, and something about it felt different. It was the shampoo that tipped me off. A full-sized bottle of exactly the brand I had just switched to the week before. Not some random scent either, the same one. That was weird, right? Sure, maybe I had mentioned it in passing online. Maybe some algorithm had done its creepy magic and passed the info along. I brushed it off, until the next box came. This one had coffee, a specific blend from a tiny shop 2 blocks from my apartment. Not a well-known brand, not something available in stores. I stared at the bag for a long time. I bought it once, in person, paid in cash. There was no way for an algorithm to know that. The boxes weren't fun anymore, but the worst one, that came last. A small package, lighter than usual. Inside, a single item, a framed photo of me, taken through my bedroom window. I dropped the box, my hands suddenly cold. Stared at the picture, my breath coming too fast. I could see myself through the glass, sitting on my bed, reading. My curtains had been open. My lights had been on. I was completely alone. Or at least, I had thought I was. I checked my email first, searched for my order confirmations. All gone. I checked my bank account next. No record of any transactions with Luna Crate. Even my tracking numbers, deleted. It was like I had never subscribed at all. I grabbed my phone, my fingers shaking, pulled up the company's website, went straight to their customer service page. The contact email was gone. The phone number, disconnected. The subscription, canceled. Not by me, by them. I called the police. Told them everything. The boxes, the picture, the missing records. They took a report, asked the usual questions. Any exes who might do this? Any friends playing a prank? I told them no. They promised they'd look into it. But I knew they wouldn't find anything, because there was nothing to find. No company, no seller, no trace that Luna Crate had ever existed, except for the boxes, and the picture, and the feeling that somewhere out there, someone was still watching. If you're drawn to tales like these, consider subscribing to Spectral for more chilling entries waiting to be uncovered. And if you have your own haunting story that you'd like featured in an upcoming compilation, we'd love to hear it. Just email us at spectralentries@gmail.com. Now, let's get back to the video. Doctor's appointments never bothered me. I wasn't one of those people who avoided them, who let years pass before getting a checkup. I stayed on top of things. Regular visits, regular blood work, kept everything in order. So when I walked into the clinic that morning, I wasn't nervous. I wasn't thinking about anything except getting it over with. It was a small place, the kind where you see the same faces every time. The receptionist, the doctor, the nurses. Except this time, I didn't recognize the nurse who called my name. She was young, blonde hair pulled back, dark eyes that flicked over me as I followed her down the hall. Something about her gave me pause, but I couldn't put my finger on it. She took my vitals first. We made small talk. She asked how I'd been feeling. I told her fine. She nodded, made notes. And then, offhand, she mentioned my favorite coffee shop. By name. I blinked. Did I know her from somewhere? I asked if she went there often. She just smiled and said, sometimes. Nothing weird. Until she brought up my morning jog. She knew the street I ran down, the turn I always took near the park. I laughed it off. Maybe she lived nearby. Maybe she had seen me running. Then she mentioned my hoodie, said she liked the blue one, said she especially liked the tear on the sleeve. The room went quiet. I forced a chuckle, told her I hadn't worn it today. She tilted her head, smiled again. That's when I felt it, that cold, creeping feeling in my gut. I hadn't worn it today. I hadn't worn it here at all. I wore it yesterday, at home. The doctor came in a minute later. The nurse gave me one last glance before leaving the room. The rest of the appointment passed in a blur. I don't remember much, just a vague sense of unease, my stomach twisting in ways I couldn't explain. When the doctor finally said I was good to go, I walked out of there fast. So fast, I didn't go straight home. I drove around, replaying the conversation in my head. I tried to reason it out. Maybe I had worn the hoodie somewhere in public and just forgotten. Maybe she really had seen me around. Maybe this was all in my head. But I knew better. There was something in the way she looked at me, like she knew more than she should, like she was waiting for me to figure it out. When I finally went home, I checked the windows first, checked the doors, checked the locks. Everything was in place. I told myself I was being paranoid. Still, I went out the next morning and bought curtains, bought new locks. Something wasn't right, and I wasn't about to ignore it. That night, I barely slept. Every creak in the apartment made me jolt awake. Every shift of the shadows had me staring at the window. It was stupid. Nothing had happened, and yet, that feeling wouldn't go away. The next morning, I left for work as usual, but when I opened the front door, I stopped. Right there, sitting on the welcome mat, a folded piece of blue fabric. My hoodie, clean, pressed, the tear on the sleeve neatly stitched back together.